Yes. Well, we'll start off with the opening statements from each candidate, starting with Steve.
Got it? All right. Thank you and welcome. We live in a beautiful place here, don't we? I come before you tonight as a longtime concerned homeowner who has grown tired of the questionable leadership decisions and direction resulting in divisive, very contentious times over the years and perpetuating a business as usual approach. So I recently decided to jump headfirst into community service by running for the board of directors, trying to do what I could help to change that business as usual approach. Unlike the other candidates, although I've been a longtime resident, I do not have a history of community involvement. I'll leave that up to you all to decide in your voting if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I'll say this, I come in with no preconceived notions, and I carry no excess baggage, and obviously I'm certainly no politician. I simply want the board of directors to take leadership in getting things done, confront our major issues, put personal priorities aside, make those tough, many times, unpopular decisions and forward a path forward for the good of this community. It's precisely my experience gained throughout my career that I believe I can bring service to this community with expertise needed in building consensus and providing clear communication to an incredibly diverse set of stakeholders towards the goal of getting things accomplished. We all have varying perspectives on the right thing to do for the best interests of this community. However, we are an extremely diverse community with the varying interests and economic capability. There's a saying about not noticing the elephant in the room. I'm pointing out that not only is there a large elephant in this room, there's one that's walking throughout our community, and that elephant even has a name. The name of that elephant is the Piper, and the Piper is looking for funding and some results. It's time to pay the Piper. We can't continue on the same course we've been on since I've lived here. We can't continue to study and review, infight, boycott, and take no action. Time is no longer on our side. Now here's the good news, folks. I think we have begun to develop a core group of quality staff who genuinely want to improve their areas of responsibility. They need our support. I think we've made some positive changes in our board of directors, but have a ways to go. As we vote this year for the 2 board of director positions, we as a community have the opportunity to make clear either that we are okay with business as usual, or it's time for a change and infuse some new blood into leadership of the community. I look forward to your questions tonight. It'll help me understand your concerns, hopes, and desires for this community, and hopefully through this you'll begin to understand mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you for inviting me to speak at this forum. I feel that some of the qualifications of my past experiences may allow me to help lead this association into the future. I've experienced working for and leading a family business that had 150 employees and dealt with about $20 million a year in retail sales. We were a union business with loyal employees that were paid at the highest level in the industry. And while on this business, I also served with several trade association boards as both directors and officers. And I learned in that experience how to hire and manage executive directors, general managers, and to recognize their skills and maximize their contribution. In my opinion, directing the GM is a huge responsibility of the board and takes special skills. I also served on 2 charity boards. As officers and directors, we raised funds and directed their use and followed the money trail closely. Managing charities teaches us to read between the lines and accept personal responsibility that the monies collected are spent as intended. I am to carry that mindset forward as a director if I'm elected. It is your money, and we are entrusted by you to spend it wisely and use fiduciary responsibility while making decisions on your behalf. I value your money more than I value my money because I value the trust that you may give me to represent your interests. My real reason for running for the board, though, is I feel very fortunate to live in a community surrounded by good-hearted people with good intentions that also have a passion for where we live. I don't want to focus on any single part of our paradise, but want to focus on the big picture. All of our amenities, from the beautiful lake to the magnificent greenbelt that winds through our community and everything in between, we have it all. What we don't have is vision. We need the leadership to provide the community with vision and the concept that everything we have here that makes us special can be made better. We need a pathway to not only sustain what we have, but to improve what is here. Every year we do a reserve study. We need to follow through with those plans. All of this leads us to what I think is the big prize, and that is higher property values. In order to achieve higher property values, we need to prove to potential buyers that our association has not only the vision to be better, but the management and leadership skills to make that happen. We haven't had anything close to that since I've been here. And if you Google HVLA, there hasn't been much to encourage a buyer over the past 50 years. We got here by flying by the seat of our pants, and we must do better. We need leadership, we need vision, and we need to give our homeowners value for the money that entrust us to spend on their behalf. Unless we do better, people can lose thousands of dollars on the potential value of their homes and property. Young families depend on home equity to send their kids to college or to pay for weddings or what.
Thank you. Time's up.
Do we get a warning on the time there?
Okay, we'll try to.
It would be nice if we get some kind of signal when we're running out of time.
Okay.
Okay, ready? Hello, I'm Bruce Brashares, and I'd like to start by thanking all of you for attending tonight. I'm a 14-year resident who started volunteering with the association in 2013, starting on the Lake and the Golf and Green Committee. I was elected to the board in 2015, and I'm running for re-election. First, the bad news. Unfortunately, during the past 3 years, the current board majority has retained control with partisan appointments, often followed by early resignations. During my term, we have had 4 different presidents. This turnover has resulted in a lack of experience and knowledge about HVLA and HOAs by the leadership. As a result, very little has been accomplished in the past 2 years. We need to break the cycle. I am running for re-election to form a new majority and get the association back on track. The directors need to reclaim the responsibilities that they've delegated to the GM. We need a board that is not afraid to communicate with the members directly, not one that delegates responsibilities to the GM. We need a board that has experience in rules and laws that govern HOAs, not one set on doing whatever it pleases. We need a board that has experience in finance and can act as the members' watchdog, not one that delegates all the financial responsibility to the GM. We need a board that has vision and leadership skills to move our association ahead as we rebuild our amenities and bring our community back together, not a partisan board without any vision and unwilling to put in the time and effort required. There is hope. Even in the minority, I've been able to get a few items approved by the board. The number of monthly open meetings was doubled, and the member comments added to the end of each meeting, giving members 4 chances to directly address the board versus only 1 a month. Unfortunately, the current leadership later reduced the number of meetings to 1 on a Saturday only. I was able to pass several changes to our committee rules to strengthen committees. With the Golf and Green Committee, I helped publish 3 views articles and researched the percentage of our total golf expense and found that it has remained nearly constant over 17 years. It was on my submission that the board agreed to use an outside consultant to conduct a professional survey and help guide us in using the data to develop a long-term plan for our amenities. Hopefully, during the next hour of questions, I'll be able to explain more about my business background, the things I've accomplished so far as a director, my support for all our amenities, and the vision many of us share for a brighter association future. Thank you.
Quick question, how much time do we get?
3 minutes.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Mark Milio. I came into your community about 2.5 years ago, and I moved here from Marin County with my son, Kai, who's in the back of the room somewhere over there. Hi, Kai. And I have really, really enjoyed living here. I love everything about this place. The lake is amazing. The greens are amazing. The lake is amazing. The amenities we have, I think, are fantastic. And I think it's so easy for us to criticize and get angry or upset about things. I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful that you're here and that you're volunteering your time to hear us out. I think that I don't claim to bring anything specific to the table here. I have, you may have seen in my statement, I have professional background experience in consulting. I've done a lot of work with different teams and types of people, so I feel very comfortable working with very diverse viewpoints and coming to some kind of consensus, conclusions, solutions, deliverables, things like that. Very comfortable with those ideas. I think that sometimes, having served on a couple of other boards before this opportunity of being on a board here, I've seen a lot of time wasted in, arguing over details and things like that, and sometimes that's very necessary. I do hope that if I'm elected, I can bring common sense, transparency, and a calm approach to solutions here. As I think all of us at these two tables up here, believe that all of our amenities are critical and should be preserved, maintained, restored, enhanced. And I think that I also believe strongly that the area that I'm most concerned about in our community from a big picture standpoint is really the reserves that we have or should have. I feel that they seem a little bit low to me. And I think fiscal conservative approaches that require difficult decisions to be made are required. We need to really ensure the long-term success of this community. If we're going to maintain our property values, I believe that having a higher percentage of reserves is important. That's one of the things I'm going to be looking for. I also think that it does seem to me, and perhaps I'm biased because I'm here with my son, but it does seem to me I meet a lot of families and a younger demographic than what I hear was here many years ago when this community was established. So I'm also interested in making sure we pay attention to that demographic of our community, although certainly not at anyone's expense. And so I'm really grateful to be here and look forward to your questions tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we'll start the questioning period. The first question we'll go in order for the first one. And so Steve, you'll get the first question. Do you favor hiring a community management company to manage the association?
Excuse me, how long do we have for the answer?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. I favor looking into it.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We're not used to
I favor, I think the easy answer is yes. I think it's an interesting concept to look at that. Again, being a long-term resident of this community and the problems we've had in the past with our, GMs and the infighting and so forth and so on, I think that would take care of that. I'd like to think, though, that we're starting to turn the corner a little bit, and as I said in my opening statement, I think we've got now a good core set of staff, probably including GM. Ed, I haven't had an opportunity to work too much with you, but from what I've seen now and in the past, I'd like at least the opportunity to, look into, maintaining our sort of independence. I'm always for a third-party operator, whether it's running the restaurant or whatever it is. I just think they can do it more efficiently. But that comes with some problems, and I'm a little hesitant to just, I'm a little hesitant to just, carte blanche say, yeah, I would do that. I think it's absolutely worth a study to determine if that's the best ultimate direction for our community. But we need to get past some of the problems that we've had with, our leadership in the past first, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Andy, same question. Do you favor hiring a community management company to manage the association?
I really think it should be investigated, and I've been for and against and in between for the 5 years I've been here, because we go through stages in our managers with different general managers and their level of expertise and different boards. It's really hard to make an honest judgment because we really haven't had enough stability to really judge where we are to go from there. Our boards have been, we've been changing presidents sometimes 2 or 3 times a year. We don't have the direction. I'm not sure that if we hired an outside party to do this, we could give them the direction to do it, to represent the homeowners the way that they should be represented. So I think it's something that we should keep on the table for the future, but I don't really think it's at the time right now to consider it, implementing it right now.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mr.
having
Fraschiers.
served on the board the last 3 years during our GM search that brought us Edward, that was part of the process actually. To Sky Pile's credit, during the interview process, he brought in, I think 3 or 4 outside management companies to tell us about how management companies work, what the costs would be, what the benefits are, what the negative parts are. And so it has been investigated within the last 2 years. And basically what I took away from it is that it costs more. You pay the same salaries or more, plus you pay an overhead on those salaries, and you lose control. You don't have the day-to-day control that you have when you have an in-house general manager. And then what several of them told us at the time is the bottom line is what the other candidates have mentioned, that they take their direction from the board. And if you don't have a board that has a clear vision and some unity to guide them, there's really no point who the general manager is. And so that's been a challenge for us as well. But based on the past research and all, I'm in total favor of having an on-site general manager and not outsourcing it.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is definitely a tough question. My personal experience, having served on another HOA board in Marin County where I lived before, which was much smaller, 200 or less homes, we did have property management company assist us, and I found it to be incredibly helpful. However, I think it's a totally different scenario in a very large community like this. So I would definitely consider the idea. Having been a consultant most of my life, I think that when you have very heated arguments and you have a lot of backstabbing and issues that I've seen at least or read about, I think it can be something that's worth considering and trying, and I would definitely consider it. I think that one of the things I've heard is that most property management companies come from urban centers and would be far away from us, and so for them to find staff would be quite difficult because good staff to find as locally as difficult. So I don't know if it's possible, but I would definitely consider something like a hybrid model where core people and manager would stay in place, but the property management company would be tasked with having certain financial goals and saving the association X percentage per year, and would be measured on that with an agreement that certain staff would stay in place. So I would be open to ideas, and I certainly think it's possible, especially if infighting and any nepotism or things like that become strongly apparent in the staff, which I don't know about, so I'm not suggesting that's the case. But that would be, if that was a concern, then I think it would be higher on my priority. Thank you.
Starting with Andrew. What is your best way to pull this community together?
I think that the best way to pull the community together is to have a vision for the future. We need to set goals. We need to have a pathway to success. As I see it, our vision has been to make us less, not make us more. The pathway of many of the boards since I've been here have been attacking one amenity and saying it's taking from other amenities, instead of figuring out how we can make all the amenities, bring them to the peak of their potential. We're talking about destroying instead of putting together. We need to change our mindset. We need to start talking about where we want to be in 10 years or where we want to be in 15 years or 20 years, and where we want all the amenities to be. We want the best of everything, naturally, and it's going to take time to do it. But until we get a a vision for making the community better, all we're going to be doing is we're going to be treading water on our efforts to make it worse. And that's basically where our leadership has been taking us for the last 5 years that I've been here. We need to change our focus, and that'll unite us.
Thank you.
Okay, I would start at about the same place of having a board with a vision and that's able to take action and start to show results to the community. I think one of the main things where we're lacking now is in communication. We have a lot of vehicles for communication, but we don't really use them effectively. So it allows a lot of social media action to happen. If people can go back and forth, start rumors, and there's no real place that they can check those rumors against. If the association were more proactive in their media, telling people what's going on in the views, in the clear lines, saying, you know, here's an issue, here's where we stand, here's what's been done, and do it in a timely and clear manner, I think a lot of the social media disruptions and all wouldn't be able to get the traction that they currently get. And I think that also would show an openness by the board. Besides having a vision, you have to have an openness to hear members' ideas, give them opportunities to express their ideas, respond to those ideas. You know, having a town hall is nice, but when you don't respond to any of the questions, it kind of negates the purpose. So there needs to be a follow-through to the members to show that we do care, we do want to hear what they're saying, and we will take action. So I guess the next test of this will be with the survey results, if the board is able to use those results and respond to the members in a meaningful way to show them that their voice is important and does count. Thank you.
Thank you. You want the question again, Mark?
No, I got it. So I think that we up here and on the board are not going to solve any issues around bringing us together as a community. It's you, us as citizens of this community that will bring us together. And the thing that shot through my mind when I heard this question was that saying around wine, women, and song. And let me explain. I don't mean that in a derogative way in any way. For song, I mean music. Like if we have music events, that will bring us together. Music crosses all political boundaries. When people hang out at music events, they have a great time. They get to chat. They get to know each other. And it will be that kind of natural kind of getting together and getting to know each other. Women have, many women in this community have kids. I see them at the beach. They're the ones who coordinate all the birthday parties at the parks and have all kinds of activities. They're the ones who create the glue for the community in a sense, and are masters. You women are the masters of finding ways to bring people together, connecting people. And I think that all the social events that we already have are great, but I think through parents' activities with kids, I think you'll find that families of different backgrounds will come together, get to know each other, the kids will get to know each other, and I think more events sponsored by the board and the association that include families would be very, very helpful. And I also think the wine part for me is we're surrounded by wineries. I think we should have more events that are sponsored by wineries that bring a certain classy feeling to the events that we have here. If we do have if we have music or other events, we should have wineries showcase their activities, their wineries here, and we should enjoy their wine, and we should get to know each other that way too. So I think that for me, that's the solution to bringing us together.
Thank you.
Ted, will you do me a favor and just reread the question again, please?
What is your best way to pull this community together?
Okay, I just want to make sure I was clear. Thank you. You know, I obviously agree with what's been said so far, folks, but, you know, for me, you know, it's a little bit more about the feel-good stuff. I think, you know, again, I'll go back to some of the things I said in my opening statement. Being a long-term resident, I want to see a plan of action. I want to see a strategic plan, and again, it's about communicating what that plan is. There's a saying about all being in the same boat, rowing in the same direction. difficult to do with a community like this, with the factions that have developed over the years. But if we can begin to take one thing at a time, whether it's the lake, whether it's the golf course, whether it's the Greenview Room, and people are concerned about their money that's being spent here. And there's talk about special assessments, there's talk about reserves, but I want to see, you all want to see your money being spent appropriately, getting some bang for the buck, seeing some improvements made. And I think that's what's going to bring people together. There's also opportunities abounding, I think, in this community to initiate volunteerism, to help our neighbors, to help neighborhoods, to help different folks around the community. Those are the kind of visions and the leadership that I think we need from our board of directors. And again, I think that's when it bring us together, when you see things that are beginning to happen that we've been talking about and studying for years and years and years. And now we're starting to see some results that, yep, my money is being taken care of, and I really enjoy what I'm seeing throughout the community.
Thank you.
Okay. Bruce, why should not a director's actions in refusing to attend a board meeting and shutting down board governance not be considered an egregious breach of fiduciary obligations as a director?
Good that I should start with that one, huh? I think there's a time when, as a director, your fiduciary duty is to draw attention to things that you think are not being handled properly, laws that are being broken, a number of different things like that. So I think there are reasons that it's proper for a director to have a protest. In the particular protest you're probably referring to, there was no association business that was halted or not allowed to continue. We were very clear about that. There was, in special session, many of the items that needed to be taken care of were. So I think if the association really was at a bad position or there was something that was critical, there could always be an emergency meeting called to take care of that, and there was no emergency meeting. So I think sometimes it is justified. There are a lot of things that guide a director, the business rule, a lot of other things, but basically it comes to the director's decision on what they think is right, and if they sincerely feel that there are justified issues to boycott it, I think that's justified.
Thank you. Okay. Mark, you want the question again?
I got it. Yeah, I have not experienced that type of scenario in any. I've experienced very cantankerous meetings, but I've not experienced boycotts in the two boards I served on. I don't. You know, again, having been a consultant for many years and always being a problem solver, again, the first thing that shoots through my mind is, hey, get a mediator in there, get people in there to counsel you, but stay in the room and, describe what it is that is broken, and then make sure that the parties on the board or whoever's involved can sit down either with help or with each other to understand what is broken, why it's super important to the people that are upset about it, and figure something out. I don't see how boycotts or actions like that can come to really any positive resolution. I think they just engender a lot of bad ill will between parties. And we all live here. We all see each other at the mailboxes. I don't want to run into somebody who I'm boycotting or who's boycotting me. So I'd vote for the mediator at that stage. Thank you.
I'm going to sound like a broken record here. I'm going to go back to something that I said in my opening statement. I'm just going to reread it and put a little bit of twist on it. I simply want the board of directors to put on their big boy pants, take leadership in getting things done, confront our major issues, put personal priorities aside, make those tough, many times unpopular decisions, and forge a path forward for the good of this community. I come from a background, a career of working with airlines, virtually every international airline and domestic airline that's out there. And let me tell you about contentious things. The airlines, whenever there's a multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar program, the airlines have not much of an interest in seeing that because it costs them money, it costs you money, because that's how these programs are paid for. So they get very contentious. You have to sit and negotiate. There's no value, there's no way to get something resolved unless you sit down and argue it. I can tell you right now that we're going to have arguments. I can tell you right now you're not going to agree with some of my points and my perspectives, but that's just the way it is. Because you have to listen. There's a saying, if any of you are followers of Stephen Covey, one of those 7 highly effective habits are seek first to understand, then be understood, and begin with the end in mind. Those are the 2 things that 35 years ago, I took the course. Those are the 2 key things that I have thought about through my life. You have to understand where people are coming from, why they are saying that, and then argue that point. And then at the end of the day, it's the facts that are going to make the decision for all of us. So that's my perspective on that.
Thank you.
At some point, first of all, we're a diversified community. We have diversified views. And I've been attending board meetings regularly for over a year. And there's been a lot of cases where views outside of the majority directors were not heard. And I can understand the frustration of the minority because they had talents and they have responsibilities and they have views to bring to the table, and they weren't allowed. Now, I don't know that a boycott was the best way to handle that, but my understanding is that they tried to do conflict resolution, and that was not brought to the table. It wasn't allowed to happen. Compromise is, to me, the ability to compromise is one of the best abilities a person can have, and being able to work things out and talk things through is very, very important. And sometimes I think things are done out of sheer frustration. I can't justify. I can't say it's a good thing or it's a bad thing, but it wasn't just the 2 directors that walked out that were responsible. It was the responsibility of the whole board that caused it. And I think the whole board needs to be looked at. I think it was a problem with 5 directors, not 2 directors.
Thank you. Okay, all right, Mark, our community is looking shabby and seedy. Our current system of complaint-driven enforcement pits neighbor against neighbor. As a result, many violations don't get acted on and continue unabated. What would your approach be to the CC&R rules enforcement to restore minimum levels of maintenance?
Well, I will admit right now that I've had a couple of blue tarps that I had to remove, and I'm very sorry about that. But they're gone, I promise.
We forgive you.
No, I mean, it's an important issue, as far as I understand, there's been a significant revamping of the CC&Rs and a deep review. I don't know if it's an audit, but it's certainly a review of those. When it comes to things like delinquent assessment payments, that's a tough one from what I understand, and I don't have any good answers on that one. I'd have to understand the machinations of the board and legal counsel and finance committee and those folks as far as how to do that better. I keep hearing about liens and then perhaps the county or other entities who can enforce some of those things with teeth not supporting us as we would like. I think, we have this wonderful, skilled security force that I understand is not supposed to be involved in direct confrontation and action in terms of potentially dangerous situations. That's perhaps more for the sheriff's department to do. But they drive around, they have eyes and ears, they can see what's happening in our community, and I wonder if they can't be leveraged more to help us maintain the quality of a community that we like to have. And I also think it would be important to, when we do change or announce that we'll be putting teeth on the CCNRs, perhaps raising fines and other things, that we allow for some community input through a town hall process so that the community can actually explain things. Because I do believe there are a number of people here, we have this balance to strike, right? We want to make the community more beautiful and property values to go up, but we also have people that are living here, making it, but barely making it in some cases, and we have to see how we can raise property values and have the standards go up while we also let people have a decent life and be able to be here. So I would always keep that in mind as the balance. And I would definitely want to have enforcement happen, and stronger enforcement. I understand that we've been lax in some areas of enforcement. So that's all I've got to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you. If you read my original statement, it was one of the things I put in there, the enforcement of the CCRs. I don't necessarily have an answer right now. I have a question, and why is I have, as probably all of you do, have friends, relatives that live in other HOAs around the country, and you can't do anything there. I mean, they're brutal with enforcement. So what is the problem with why we can't? And I'm sure there's probably a good answer that I haven't had a chance to understand yet, but that's one of the things. What is it that we can do to enforce our CCRs? I think the other thing, I was looking at, the last, I think this is the last view, and where we had all the, the graphics about, and, the deletions and additions on the CCRs. And the one thing that struck me about reading this is, I admit to not being the smartest guy, but I get, after reading some of this stuff, I get numb. It just is. So my one suggestion that I will have, because yet this is all good stuff. I mean, it's all necessary. It's all good stuff. I'm not concerned about someone running naked through the commons or something like that, but it's nice that there's something like that for those kind of issues. The thing that I would recommend is that ultimately we pick 5, 10, 7, whatever it is. What are the priorities for our community in terms of enforcement of the CCRs? To me, it's the property. It's the maintenance of the properties. That's, say it right here and now. That's one of the most important things, I think, is enforcement of personal properties. And if we could prioritize what are those, make it clear, make the message clear to everybody that we're going to focus on this, folks, because this is what's going to make us a better community. It's what's going to enhance our property values. I think that would go a long way to help enforcing the CCRs.
Thank you.
I believe that enforcing the rules is really important, but my approach would be more to try to get voluntary compliance first, try to cooperate with the homeowner, try to lead them into complying. My thought is that if somebody can't afford to put landscaping in, by fining them $500 a month for no landscaping, it's not going to get the landscaping in quicker. So we've got to work with homeowners, maybe giving them an opportunity. Say, well, we're not going to fine you the $500. If you can just show us that you're making progress every month, come in and bring pictures. Plant 5 plants a month or 10 plants a month, or take out the weeds and put in some rock, or just make some improvements and show us that you're trying, instead of trying to hit them with fines all the time. If it becomes necessary, then I say go for it, but I think we should try a lot of other things first. And there's a difference between CCRs and rules and regulations. I think all the CCRs that are spelled out on the handbooks that are given to every property owner when they come here, they're the law of the land. They should be the first thing that we enforce, because I think it's the board of directors, we have a responsibility to enforce those. I think we can be a little bit more relaxed on the rules and regulations and try to get voluntary compliance with those. But it's really important, if we're ever going to have maximize the potential of our community, we need to get all of our ducks in a row, and we need people to get their ducks in a row.
Thank you.
It's a very complex issue. Before I address that, I wanted to go back to about the boycott. One quick effort. One comment. When you everything you try to do to reach out falls on deaf ears, and when mediation attempts, I do agree that that's preferable. When those fail and some of the majority fail to
This is not a
come to the
debate.
table.
This is not a debate.
Beg your pardon?
We're not debating other candidates'
No,
answers.
I'm giving my answer.
Well, no, you were bringing up a subject that he said, and that's not allowed.
Well, we both
Please
can't
just
have
answer the
we can't
question
have
you
the
were
same
given.
idea that mediation is good? Is that
No.
what you're saying?
What she's saying is, please answer the question that you were given, not a separate one.
Well, I think I get to decide what my answer is. Well, you're going to start the clock in, I'll answer your question. In terms of our CC&R enforcements, being on the board, you get an inside look at things. There are efforts going on within the board, or within the association. There can be greater efforts. It's quite a complex thing. It's not being done just on a complaint system. We often have hearings, and someone will say, well, why are you writing me a violation when my neighbor has this and this and this in their yard? Well, oftentimes that neighbor has received 5 violations, and they're going through the process as well. So just by seeing some shabby neighbors doesn't mean that there's not action being taken. In fact, recently at the budget meeting, we heard that this year the amount of dollars received by fines is at quite a high level and quite a bit more than was budgeted. So the idea that you can just go out and write up tickets and raise the fines and pound them over the head doesn't get compliance. I would agree that you need cooperation. You need to work with the homeowners and involve security. We had a chief of police come and tell us that he used his officers for code enforcement, and it worked very well.
Thank you. Okay, so now it's time for the question. Steve, do you favor hiring a wildfire flood safety manager?
Easy answer to that is, of course. I think it's needed that, anybody that's lived in California, let alone Northern California, let alone Lake County, for the last 5 years, I think it's vitally important. It's just one of those things that I think, everything we decide has to revolve around return on investment, bang for the buck, and so forth, as I said before. That's one of those things that it's pretty hard to argue against. It would be hard to imagine not having that, not doing that, unless, and it's something I just will claim ignorance to, that I'm not sure if there's somebody or some entity within our current organization that couldn't slide in and start, doing something like that we couldn't take advantage of, whether it's in the environmental department or whatever. But some pretty specific things that is involved here. It's clearing debris, it's clearing junk and vehicles and so forth that people need to be made aware of. So easy answer is yes, but I think it needs a little discussion too.
Thank you.
Hi, this is a very important issue with me. I hold it dear to my heart. I was at the budget workshop the other day, and I know that there was quite a discussion about tree removal, which is going to get started, which I think is a great move. And there was talking about making the subcommittee on fire into at least a temporary committee to look at the community and what we can do to improve our chances in a wildfire and to make us safer and to help protect our ratings with the insurance companies. I mean, when they go to write coverage in here, if we're not doing the dotting our I's and crossing our T's, we're going to be paying a lot more in fire insurance. And there's some communities like Buckingham and various estates that are assigned risks on fire coverage, homeowners coverage. So it's something that's really, really important. It can cost a lot more than our assessment if we let this get out of control. And it's something that we really need to work hard at. And I'm for whatever we can do in that area.
Thank you.
Yes, I also think that this is a very important issue. I don't know if flood and safety manager is the answer necessarily, but it's something that we look at. I was surprised a couple months ago when the board received quite a few letters about concern, and some of the members were out doing their own weed abatement on the highway and things like that, that the board didn't choose to take some kind of action to have a meeting or discussion about that. So Director Bearhart and myself used our right as a director, and we asked for a special meeting on fire safety, as we're allowed to do. And we've been waiting now for about 2 months to hold that meeting, but it will be held on September 18th. And at that meeting, we hope to look at what the association is doing, really review what all the efforts have been, what we're planning to do, and also what we can do. I've heard calls for a fire czar, a fire prevention committee, either a permanent committee or an ad hoc committee. I think they're all good ideas. I think we need to look at them. It's a new normal out there now, and we need to make up for the past when we've ignored this issue. And I think one of the first good steps, as Andy mentioned at the board meeting, the board committed $280,000 per year for the next 5 years, or at least tentatively committed, to remove all the dead fuel off of the association's common properties. So I think that's a real good step, and looking at it more and forming some kind of committee or something that we have more attention on it, I think is very important.
Thank you.
Well, clearly, we all agree it's a high priority, very high priority, no doubt about that. The devil's always in the details. We're talking about a massive budget chunk having to be dedicated to something like this. So the question then becomes, do you hire someone at significant cost to make this an ongoing priority with lots of to-do lists and lots of action items to keep the ball rolling? I think that's a good idea, but in the context of the budget, I have to understand that all better. I don't have enough visibility into that right now to make a clear statement about that. I think it would be in the top 3. The fire safety would be number 1 for me in terms of priorities, but whether we need a fire safety manager hired, I can't decide on that at this stage. I think it would be something I would want to discuss regularly. I did see the effort by the Tuttles as very positive. I thought that was amazing to see all those folks come out there and start taking action on their own. I think those kinds of efforts do wake us up and show us how important these things are. And I would certainly want to look at I would like to see sort of a cascading priority list showing us what it's going to cost to get to the commons, what it's going to cost to get to individual homeowners, trees and clearings, and how that's going to be handled, because not all are going to be able to afford to do that on their own. And then balance that in with what we're going to pay the fire safety manager and what benefits we get. We may want to phase somebody in after the first 18 months of doing a lot of things ourselves, and then have them pick up on our strategy, on our vision for that, to solve that problem and actually implement solutions. But maybe 3 years is a bit of a long time. Something, next 1 to 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question. As members no longer get a discount for paying fees in advance, shouldn't we do away with the special price breaks golf club members get and make them pay the same as other members? Andy?
I don't really follow the question. I don't know. I don't play golf, so I'm not sure about what you're talking about as far as what the golf. I've never had a membership. I don't know what special fees that you're talking about.
Okay, thank you. Bruce?
Well, I think you're really talking about apples and oranges here. The assessments are one thing of how you want to pay your assessments, whether if you pay them in full, you get a $60 break, I think, or you used to, but you don't anymore. No, that's not what he's talking about. That's different than users of an amenity paying to use that amenity. People that use the pool pay money to use the pool, they get a card. People at the stables pay money to use that. So many of our amenities, we ask the users that use them, besides the membership subsidizing the general subsidy, we ask the members that use them to pay an additional fee. So I think that's appropriate that people using the golf course would pay a fee for that. I think it's appropriate that if you're a member, you should get a break from what the public pays. I think that's fine. Just as if you want to use the pool, you have to pay for a card to use the pool, and other amenities, you pay for the use of those amenities. And I actually would look as a revenue source that more amenities have the primary users of those help pay the cost of those.
To clarify then, so you think the golf club members should pay the same rate as any other member of the association?
Well, they do currently, yes. If you're a member playing golf, you have a certain rate. If you're an outside public person, you pay a different rate. I think that's appropriate to give members a discount, yes.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure I fully understand the question. If we're talking about assessment, monthly assessment discounts, if it is the case that golf members get a discount, I want to know how much and where I can sign up, because that sounds kind of unfair and kind of privileged. I don't think that is the issue, right? So maybe I misunderstood the question. But if it's related to assessments, I think we all pay the same amount and we don't get discounts anymore across the board. And so maybe we can save time and move on to the next question or the next speaker. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Steve, do you?
Yeah, like the others, I'm a little concerned about the question. And if I understand it correctly, we as residents of the community who are golfers pay one fee, and if you want to, for unlimited golf. And if you're not a resident of the community, you pay, you can buy a, unlimited golf membership, and it's more. So if the question is that we should be paying the same as a non-resident, no, I don't. I think, being a resident, we're paying assessments, we're paying everything. If the bottom line question here is, paying more fair share, or, in quotes, fair share of use of a certain facility, I think that's what, everything, and, including a strategic plan is all about, is where can we, bump up a little bit some, the revenue side of things to pay for some of the expense side of things. So, I'm probably not being as clear as I otherwise could, but I'm a little bit confused with the question.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, Bruce, wouldn't it be a good idea to do away with the position of golf operations director and fold the duties in with the director of recreation?
I don't think that would be a good idea at all. Our director of, what were the two that you said, the golf operations director and the events director?
Yes.
Yeah, the events director, I understand, is a part-time position to begin with, and that's actually going to be changing in the future a little bit. But I think they're quite different tasks. The events director has all our community events, which I highly support. Running, I believe, the pool, a number of different responsibilities. I think golf is a different operation. It requires expertise in the golf world, a lot of different skills than would be required, and I think it would be foolish to try to have one person do both those jobs.
Thank you.
So at first glance, this question to me does not sound all that reasonable, I guess, because it does sound to me like this position would require a lot of time and effort. However, as I said about the fire safety manager, you have to think about priorities and what those are. Obviously, the golf course is an amenity that has been with us, is with us, will be with us ongoing, so it's critical, as all the other amenities. I just think that when you get into reserves and you start talking about budget, you have to look at where you prioritize at the end of the day. And so those are things that they're going to just be difficult decisions that have to be made at the board level when decisions are made. But at first glance, likely no.
Thank you.
No, absolutely not. I would sort of turn the question around and say, maybe the golf director should take on the role of the recreation or activities. I mean, because, it's such a specialized role that a golf director plays. Having, again, lived here for a long period of time and seeing the golf directors we've had in the past, I think we have one of the best I've seen, and I've lived in different parts of the country, and I would hate to see that change. I don't think I'd want to take golf lessons from, the recreation director who doesn't play golf, doesn't work closely with our maintenance staff to understand what it takes to maintain a golf course, doesn't know what it takes to pull in a tournament and run a tournament, which I think is something we need to do even more of. I think they can be a big moneymaker. So I think, sorry, a long answer to a short question, but no.
Thank you.
For all the reasons that everybody said, I think it would be a horrible move. It would be a costly move. It wouldn't be good for the bank book. It wouldn't be good for the golf course, and it certainly wouldn't be good for recreation department either. I don't think that, in any sense of the word, that it would be good for anything. I'd be totally against it.
Thank you. Mark, what would you recommend doing if a director intentionally obstructs board business by boycotting meetings or filibustering executive? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Looks like it's laminated there.
How do you feel about video recording all meetings?
I'm sorry, repeat the question, please.
How do you feel about video recording all meetings?
I would have to confer with Sterling Davis to see. I believe that there's something in there about you can audio record or video record, but not both, or something to that effect. Personally, if it was allowed under the rules, I would have no issues with it. If we want to talk about bringing the community together, if we want to talk about communicating better, if we want to talk about bringing civility to board meetings, at least open session meetings, then I think that that's a good incentive for everyone to understand that the community is going to, perhaps behind the website's login access only, would be able to see what we're up to if they can't attend. I also think we have a lot of members who just can't make it to meetings, and for them to be able to see what's going on, I think that would be powerful for them. I would want to clarify, though, that that would be for open board meetings, not for closed sessions, obviously, or executive session, things like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that last section, Mark, because I agree that videotaping's fine, but not for, closed sessions. We've got kind of a little saying in my industry that, not ready for prime time viewing yet. The board needs some time. Any executive, any directorship needs some time to cook through some ideas, have some discussions, if they're going to support it. It has to be thought through. It has to be talked through rather than just opening up everything to everybody. It's great, if you could do that in reality. I would not be for videotaping, closed board meetings, but certainly everything else, why not? Of course.
Thank you.
I'm all for it myself. I think not only will it keep the public informed, but it'll keep the board on their toes, keep us on our toes. It'll keep us civil. It'll keep the meetings going, and it will give us a overall better leadership for the community. I think it's great. I think we should have been doing it all along.
Thank you.
Yeah, I too think it could be very useful, and I would generally be in support of it. Since I've been on the board, it's actually come up several times, and I think it would make the board more transparent. It would make the meetings available to those that can't make them, that it's not a convenient time. It'd be a great way to share what went on. Unfortunately, in the past, when it was brought up, the board asked the attorney's advice, and the attorneys both times advised against doing it. I'm not sure exactly all the reasons. I think there was concern about things being taken out of context, dippets and things like that. But the attorney recommended against it, and under the business rule, where if the board follows the advice of a qualified specialist, they will be safe from being challenged on that, and they took that route, and they went with the attorney's advice, but I would be in favor of it, and if it came up again, I would vote for it.
Thank you. Okay, who's up now? Steve, will you work to open the golf course to additional uses? The $25,000 golf study we had done made suggestions. There has been no follow-up. At the very least, we would like to see some walking paths open up.
You know, it's one of those things where there's all these sort of what I would call feel-good things, and unintended consequences sometimes come from, jumping on the bandwagon for some of these good ideas. I think in theory, anything we can do to enhance and increase the revenue and reduce expenses from the golf course is a good idea. By allowing walking paths and so forth, bicycle paths, that creates its own set of problems. It's a danger, people doing that. And then, if you have bicycles, then all of a sudden you got little kids that are using the greens to do their wheelies, and then you create more maintenance and so forth. So I'm absolutely in favor of doing whatever we can to enhance revenues, because I think that's the main thing we have as a community. And so obviously it's also the main expense, but it's one of the things that we need to look at carefully as a community and see, what opportunities may exist in terms of trying to enhance the revenue.
Thank you.
I would have to see a study before I can make a decision on something like that. I'd need to understand the potential liability, what our insurance coverages are, what regulations would come into play, and how it would affect the golf operations. I think if there is a way to do it and not create a lot of issues, I'd be all for exploring it. But I'd have to really see an in-depth study with all the facts before I can make a decision on it. I agree with the concept if it can be worked out, but it'd have to be worked out.
Thank you.
I would also be willing to look at additional ways that we can get our members onto the golf course to enjoy its beauty and all. Actually, as the liaison to the Golf and Green Committee about a year ago, we brought forth a proposal to the board to open the paths for walking. We found that there were several challenges, that you would need to shut the golf course for part of the day, so it would include lost revenue. That would be one challenge. Some golf courses we looked at closed the course on a Monday for the whole day. So there would be a little bit of lost revenue there. In the past, when we've looked at this, we've also had our attorneys advise against it and the insurance agent advise against it, that if you open the golf course to walking, then you're releasing your liability. You then become liable for people that are on the course that might get hurt. So there are a number of issues that way. So I would be willing to continue to look at it. I don't think it's insurmountable, as other golf courses do allow people walking on the course. I would also look for other ways that we can get additional use. There's soccer golf now that many golf courses have, where there's a little hole off to the side. Instead of hitting a golf ball, you kick a soccer ball. and there's a small fee associated with it, but it doesn't interrupt the golf operations. 2 golfer groups can go out, then a soccer group, then a golf group, where other things that when you do them, you have to exclude the golfers for that other activity, where I think soccer golf would be compatible, and I'm sure there are other activities like that that we could look at to get the members out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would have a strong inclination to explore all options there. I think, unlike the lake and most of our other amenities, the golf course is fairly exclusive in terms of access. We can't walk on it. We can't really be there. And I understand there are issues. So, with respect to those liability and other types of issues or revenue loss issues, I still think it would be really worth exploring because it is a really beautiful green space. As I said, I think that there are younger people coming into the community and having perhaps soccer, golf, ultimate frisbee. I don't know. Again, it's got to be things that don't tear up the greens. I understand that's critical. But things that let people, especially younger people, get access to that space might be really interesting because I think it also gives you a gateway into more people appreciating golf and maybe looking at it when they normally would not have in the past because it was perhaps a bit elite or blocked off for them, especially young people. So if it could be done safely, I've seen, this is a bit of an odd example perhaps, but I've seen skate parks in other cities where they write plainly on the walls or on all the announcements, this is your park, take care of it, you trash it, do anything here that makes this place not good, we're going to shut it down immediately. So I think it could be very much your responsibility. You take good care of this place, we let you walk on it, don't tear it up, you tear it up, you're out of here, you can't use it anymore. So I think giving people responsibility to follow high standards, I think, is something worth trying. At least I would be open to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, and I apologize to everyone whose questions didn't get asked because we have many more questions than we have time to ask them. So I think we'll go to the closing statements. And we'll follow the same order as before.
You want same order?
Yeah.
It's up to you guys. But,
No, we're going to do reverse order.
We should do reverse order.
yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll start with Mark then.
Great. Well, listen, this is just scratching the surface of what we're all about. I hope you got a little bit of a sense from being here, and I'm so grateful that you came. I know everybody's got a lot of things going on, so thank you for being here and giving me the opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you. I am very interested in hearing from anyone in the community who has thoughts, who has opinions, and I'm looking forward to having meet and greets with folks in the community, and I'll be sharing some of that information. I've actually put some cards on the table outside. Grab one of those. It has a calendar on it where I can just have all time slots available, and I'll come to anyone's location, home, or public space that you would like to chat with you. And I welcome you to, or I would encourage you, to set something up and have me come join you, because I'd love to hear. I am only been here 2.5 years. I'd like to learn what your issues are and what you're concerned with so that I can address those concerns should I be elected. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you. It's been an honor to be here.
Thank you.
Okay, first off, I'd like to thank the other 3 candidates for volunteering their service to the association. I think this time you have 3 or 4 really good qualified candidates to choose from, and I'm proud to be up here with the other 3. Hopefully now, after answering our questions, you have a better idea about our background, about our volunteer work, and our vision for the future. If you're happy with the way things have been going, I'm probably not your candidate. If you want change in an association that's responsive to its members, communicative and transparent, physically responsible, overseeing and spending your assessment dollars, that has a vision, a leadership to maintain and rebuild our amenities, while it appreciates and incorporates the needs of all the members of our diverse community, then you will want to vote for myself and Andy Wolf. So I thank you all again for your attendance and your interest in our association.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for the opportunity to come in and tell you what my thoughts are on Hidden Valley Lake and what it means to us and our family. And I really just want to offer my services to help if it's wanted. I'm really feel good right now that no matter who wins this election, we've got winners. This is the first time I've seen an election since the 5 years that I've been here where people haven't been at each other's throats. It's every one of us up here can shake hands, work together, and get the job done. So there's no animosity. I'm not calling anybody out in the election. There's no animosity. I'm running with Bruce because I think I've been to every board meeting for the last year, and Bruce has a lot of talents that have been ignored. He's got a lot of experience, and he's got a lot to offer yet. And he's willing to do it after the 3 years that he's just been through that, and that means a lot. There's not a whole lot of directors that have even made their 3 years. But anyway, that's why I'm teamed up with Bruce, and if there's anything that I can do to contribute to make this a better place for all of us, that's what I want to do. And if you choose somebody else, believe me, I won't feel bad. You know, I mean, it's not like it's not my life's goal to be a director of Hidden Valley Lake, but I sure would like to help if I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
I ask that you carefully consider your vote. Carefully review the candidates' statements, read between the lines. They say a lot about us and how we may conduct business in trying to provide leadership for this community. Pass along your views on who you're going to support and why to others. We've got our survey that will provide some direction as a starting point. I'm concerned about, here we go again, it will be business as usual. The board of directors now, I repeat now, has to provide the desperately needed leadership this community needs and deserves. We need a board of directors that consists of people who are willing to work together, put their personal interests aside, make the tough decisions, work together for the benefit of the whole, and seek consensus. It shouldn't be that difficult, right? I pledge to you that I'll bring a balanced approach. I believe in taking emotion out of decision-making, rather a facts-based process. I will strive towards building consensus. I want our department heads to know we have their backs and will provide them with the tools needed to be successful. The following are the core principles that will guide me in participation in the board of directors and in service to our community. Very simply, they are the safety and the security of our community. Without that, we have nothing, and that includes fire safety and pride in ownership. That's in all our properties, all our facilities, our infrastructure, and all our assets. We need some out-of-the-box thinking on how to address our issues. I can't change those who approach a challenge with a negative position. For me, I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Lastly, as one small example of my commitment to provide service to this community, I will respectfully decline any offers of financial assistance to my campaign. I'm in it alone. Thank you for your time and interest tonight, and I look forward to further conversations with you.
Thank you. That concludes the formal part of our meeting. If you'd care to just mingle with the audience and take questions privately. Thank you.